Hello everyone, Hamad here. Welcome to my channel, Cloud with Hamad, DIY Cloud Learning to Inspire. For today in our DevOps series, I will be deploying a simple web application built in Java using Maven. Maven is a Java built automation tool. We'll use that Java code to deploy into web application using Tomcat, and we'll do that using Jenkins. During the process, I will actually use Azure VM instead of VMware machine. That's a lengthier process. So what we'll do, we'll cut short some time. We'll basically install a VM on Azure. We'll install CentOS. We'll use CentOS VM, and then we'll install Jenkins, Tomcat, and we'll download the code from Git, and then we'll use Tomcat as a web server to deploy the code. But before we do that, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, like, and share with friends. I would really appreciate it, and I highly appreciate the subscription. People are subscribing to my channel, so I am humbled, so I really appreciate it. Now without further ado, let's go to our notes. Alright guys, so since I'm already logged into Azure portal, you can do the same thing using VMware. You can use this VMware Workstation Pro and have a Ubuntu or CentOS distribution and install Jenkins and Tomcat on the same server. So the installation is not that tedious, but it can be done. What I'm doing is to save some time. I actually spin out a virtual machine of CentOS 7.9 version onto VMware in Azure, onto Azure virtual machine, and so I already have it running. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log into this machine, and once I do that, I will start installing Jenkins, and we'll update the EPL packages. I'll show you in a second here. So I would close this here, log in, and password, and then I'm logged into the machine that I just spin out. I will get an alleviated access, sudo su, and then we'll go into remote, clear the screen. Now we already logged into the VM that we just spin out. Okay, so before we go further, I wanted to show you my GitHub repository. Actually, let me show you this. All the codes, all the steps are actually available on my GitHub repository. I am going to leave the link on the video, and so you can actually go step by step. All the steps have been checked, so I will go through these process, and these are available on Jenkins website as well, how to go through the installation, and I will try to explain at my level best to go through the process and through installing Jenkins, Tomcat, and how do you configure Jenkins to deploy the code. Also, I know that I actually downloaded a code Java Hello World app from this guy, so I cloned it. So I would say, you can use mine, or you can go to this guy's website and download the code from there, and that should actually take care of all the coding stuff. Okay, so let's start the tutorial. And so first thing what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and type in yum install epils release -y. -y is actually which is where when you install a software, you usually get a prompt or a box says, hey, do you want to continue or do you don't want to continue. -y is basically, it's a response to that, and just like in Windows. So if I click here, it would go ahead and it's already installed, so we just nothing to do. It says 7.10 is already installed. Make sure I have updated the machine. So if I hit, and then it's going to go ahead and install the machine, which has already been updated. So the next thing I will do is I will install Java, because we are going to be using Java code. So yum install Java 1.8 version, and it's on 86 64-bit machine. Again, is unattended installation, I would say. So I'll click here, hit enter, and then it's going to start installing Java. Okay, Java is installed. All the dependencies are installed. I will clear the screen so that easier for you guys to know. So if I want to see version, and it tells you that 1.8 is installed. The next step is to install wget and git. So these are the wget is to download the file. So use this wget command to download a repository or any like any software. And git is, you already know that when we are going to be using git to download the file, so we're just using these two in this machine so that we can use the command doing that. So that is done, and then now we will install wget is already installed, and o is an output, and it's in etc yum.repo. This is the place where it's gonna, you will find that repo. So we will download from these repo. So hit enter. It's done. Okay, and then next thing is rpm package will import the key for that package. So this is rpm, this is resource package manager, import this package key, that is jenkins.io.key. So he's going to hit download the key, and then once that is done, we will install Jenkins. Well, simple command yum install Jenkins -y, hit enter. All right, so Jenkins is installed. What we'll do is we'll use a systemctl command to start the, so clear systemctl start Jenkins service, and then we'll try to systemctl enable Jenkins service. What we're doing is we're enabling the Jenkins service. So the reason we do that is, let's say for some reason you don't have a like if your machine reboots, so it automatically starts while after reboot. So you hit that command, use that command, enable Jenkins service. So every time it reboots, it will enable the service for Jenkins. I mean, it updates this bin config file Jenkins to be on. Okay, so once that is done, what we'll do is we'll actually check out, what we'll do is we'll actually restart the service. So systemctl restart Jenkins, and then systemctl start Jenkins, and then status, systemctl status Jenkins. So now you can see Jenkins is installed, and it should be installed in onto to the web server. So let's say if I want to bring this here, and I think what we have an IP of this IP 52.188.180. 138. And then we already know Jenkins works on 80. So we'll use that port to install Jenkins. Okay, so this might not work. Only reason behind that is that we haven't opened port 8080 onto our Azure. So I am going to quickly go and update the Azure portal. So I would go to networking and then see there's no port open for 8080, and that's why that thing is not working right now. So I just move here. So let's go back here to networking. You can add port here, and then you do 8080, and then you would say Jenkins 8080. And I would click OK, and it's going to update the security rules. Once that happens, this should come back up. So it takes a little time, so it should come back up once this rule is updated. And we're gonna just wait for it to show up. In the meantime, there you go. So I think it's working. So now you are in the front page of Jenkins, like it's the installation configuration. So now it says that, you know, unlock Jenkins, ensure Jenkins security setup by administrator, a password has been written to the log. So this is the file location where the password, initial password is. So if I copy this, this would show up a password for us. So if I go here and I would say cat, which is to view the file, and hit enter, it shows this password for me to have so that I can log into Jenkins for the first time. So I copy this and I would go back to Jenkins here, paste the password, and I will hit continue. It should let me log into Jenkins for the first time. So now it's asking me to customize Jenkins and then install plugins. For now, we'll just do customize plugins, whatever it's available. There are two plugins, that is deploy to container, which is which I will explain, and then also there should be a Git which is already in there. So we are good. Once this is done, it's going to ask me to log in. So this is installing all the plugins for Jenkins. All right, so again, you can do whatever. Like, I mean, I'm just making sure that, you know, and then it tells you that instance configured, default, and you save and finish. Now you are basically going to be start using in Jenkins now. So this is a Jenkins dashboard. This is the first time logging in, and there are a few places like build Jenkins when you're building a pipeline, manage Jenkins. This is where we're going to go most of it right now to set up the Jenkins. So there are a few things you can have. Configure your system. There are global configuration tool for Jenkins where you can just set up all the Java location, then Git IDs, and then, you know, all the maven. And so I would set up here. So once we get to the deployment, I'll show you how to set up all those things. In the meantime, one more thing that I wanted to do is to make sure that I have plugins properly to deploy. So these are the installed plugins already in the system. This is the first time, if you remember, we just did that. There are a few more that we need. First of all, we want to make sure we have deploy to container. That is the one that we need for sure. So I would install without restart. You can hit this and it will restart Jenkins. Okay, so this is done. So I will go back to the main screen of Jenkins. Wow, it's back to the main page. Now, one more thing, that in order for us to deploy a code that I just showed you earlier, I need to make sure that once I create a job, it gets deployed to a web service called Tomcat. So let's say if I show you Tomcat. So Tomcat is actually, what do we call it? Let me click here. It's a Tomcat Apache, and it is basically a software open source implementer of blah blah blah, and then evaluation of Java EE platform, Tomcat later, and basically software developed. So basically, you will use this interface to deploy your Java code. So what we're going to do is we're going to download Java from here. We're gonna go download the 9 version. You can actually use this repo, I would say deployer one, but I actually will leave a link for all the Tomcat installation here. So if I scroll down all the way at the bottom for this one, you should see this one, the Apache Tomcat 9.0. I would copy this here, copy link, and then I would go here for a second here. I will update my document as well in a second here for us to show you how I'm going to download the Tomcat. Okay guys, so once I copy this file, we will go back here and we'll download that. Now before I do that, I wanted you to understand that Tomcat also works on port 8080 as well as Jenkins. So both of them are on port 8080. So the only problem is that, well, it's not a problem, but I think what happened is that I can spin out another virtual machine and install Tomcat separately and point the Jenkins endpoint to another machine which I spin and install Jenkins. But this is a lab, so what I'm going to do is I'm using the same system that I have installed Jenkins, which is running on port 8081. So if I do Tomcat, which also runs on port 8080, it will not work. So what we'll do is we'll actually first, before we do the installation, what we'll do is we'll actually change the Jenkins port to pointed to 8081, and then we'll try to install like a Tomcat. So for that, what we'll do is we'll actually let's do a Jenkins port. So in order for us to change the Jenkins ports, I think it goes in sysconfig file. So sudo, and that's also on the notes that I will provide, etc config and Jenkins. And this is the text file that get created by sysconfig file for Jenkins. What we'll do is we'll actually scroll down here and we'll look for port that says port. So you can see over here it says port 8080. Jenkins is listening on port 8080 here. So you can see Jenkins default port is 8080, and currently it is sitting in 8080. So we'll change it to 8081, and then we'll hit exit and yes, close. So just want to make sure that it's done. We'll cat to see it is done correctly. Jenkins underscore PO, and you can see it's been changed to 8081. Now obviously we need to restart, so systemctl restart, and then check the status, and it's running. So Jenkins port is changed. So let's say if I go back to our documentation, not documentation, come up back here, and if I try to refresh it, it is not going to work because obviously we have changed the port. So again, I think we just need to go back here for a second and add another port, and I would use 8081. I would priority should be leave the same, Jenkins new port, and I would add, and it will add the new port. For this one, I'm gonna change the name, which I can't probably, so I'm just gonna leave it the way it is, but 8080 will have Tomcat in there, so we'll just do that here. This should work in a second here. I'm just gonna leave it for now. It will work for us. It's probably restarting. Okay, so now the next step is to install Tomcat. So in order for Tomcat, so we need to create a user and a group. So group add Tomcat, and then once we do that, we'll each try to add a users. Bin false -g detach opt. That's the folder that it's going to install. So this is what in the code as well, so I'm going to use that code. So we added a user called Tomcat in the bin false g and Tomcat detach opt Tomcat. Spelling, double checking, and hit enter. Okay, and then we'll actually go back into the temp folder. So if I hit temp, and you would see this is a temporary file. You can see all the Jenkins and jar files. Now what we're going to do is we'll use the wget command, and we'll actually use that link that we downloaded from the installation here. So if I go here, this is we downloaded from here, and now we're using to download Tomcat from there. So the Tomcat file is downloaded into the temp folder. So if I do ls, you should see a jar file, a tar file has been downloaded for it. Now what we need to do is we need to create a folder and unzip it. So we will create a make dir opt Tomcat. I think we already created it. Make dir mkdir /opt dash Tomcat already exists because we created it earlier, this one. So now what we'll do is we're gonna unzip this file, so that we unzip this file into this folder. So unzip, these are the permission, file name into this, and hit enter, and it unzips the file. So now we will check cd opt Tomcat I would clear the screen just for you. So now that, so if I do ls, it should show all the information. This is the web app file to configure all the application in Tomcat. This is where the index files are. And then, you know, this is config to change the configuration. In order for us to work in, I will change permission for that folder, this whole folder. So I would change this permission. All right. So now this is done. Now, in order for us to know what kind of Java we are installed, which we already knew, to check the version, we use a command called alternative. So alt. Okay. Alternative dash alternatives. So, and it tells you that currently this machine has this Java install. If you have multiple Java install, it show up in the line. You just need to show them which one. This is right now the selected one, or you can change the number to 2 and then hit enter. It would select. This is important for us to have this information. So we will copy this. We will use this location to specify in Jenkins that this is where the Tomcat is installed. Sorry, the Java is installed. So when we will configure Jenkins to deploy and use Java version, Java code, Java in like I would say, Java framework, it will use this location where it will explain it to where it's installed. So I'm just going to copy this for now, and then I'll explain it in a few minutes down the road. So once that is done, I will go into. So in order for us to do Tomcat, we need to do Tomcat. We have to create a service for Tomcat. So for it to restart and every time if something happens, it will automatically restart. Copy this. Everything is in the code. It's in the Git repository. Over here, we will, again, like I said, we need to make sure we change this all the way. So we copy this. This is the Java home, which this is the location we will define, and that's where reason I mentioned you that we need to copy that whole code so that we can paste that and update it. So I'm gonna paste this here, and then that's it. We'll just X out and we'll exit out with saving it, and that's it. We're done over there. So the next thing we will do is we will basically change. We'll actually add a role to the file. So I will actually use another file called Tomcat user, Tomcat user.user.xml. We'll actually add like a user into this file. So we'll scroll down. And we'll actually do this here and up here. So we'll add this user. Wait 1 second. Sorry. So in my code, we'll ask this user. You can change the password, and so I would say a user name. You can change the name to deployer, whatever works. So I will just, for the sake of test admin, and then password, we can just do password, which is not a friendly password. Okay, click X. Yes. Updated. Okay. And then one more place where we will So we'll check the deployment error. So we want to commit another line in a file called context.xml. So we'll come here, and then in here we need to make sure that the user value is up to date. So in order for us to do that, we need to commit this line. And then this is how you commit. If you notice, you can see same thing happening here. These are like commit, like the hashtag we do so that the line doesn't get read by the system. This is how you would commit this remote added value, because we're not going to be using this. So this is the two lines we added. Exit out, yes, and then we'd hit enter. Again, we will do systemctl start Tomcat, systemctl status Tomcat, and then we have Tomcat is running. So I would clear the screen. Then once Tomcat is running, we'll just scroll down here for a second, and we will go back to, so we'll just reload this here. Hopefully this should work. Actually, this will now load Tomcat, so we'll just leave it the way it is. We'll come here, you can see it's loading to Apache Tomcat. So copy this here for a second while it does that. So you can see the Tomcat has installed on the IP address using the same machine. So we changed that to 8081. Just gonna go back here, and we're gonna do 8081, and then this should load Jenkins as well. Again, and you can see I already logged into Jenkins dashboard. All right, so now the main part is done, the installation part, where we installed the web services. This is web server Tomcat, and then we also installed Jenkins. Now the next step is to install the code and make a build, create a job. Before we do that, I want to make sure that we have done like we're going to go back to manage Jenkins. These are Jenkins. We can talk about, I'll actually do another video to give a rundown on how Jenkins works, but for now we'll just go to manage plugin, and then I will look at installation, and I want to make sure the required these are all the plugins that are required. GitHub plugin is there. I would say I want to check deploy to container. Yeah, that's there too. So we're almost done here. So let's do this. Let's create a new item. So I would go to new item, and then this is where you would either do a freestyle project, a pipeline, multi-configuration project. This is basically for now a freestyle project. We'll give them a name of hello world, and then we will freestyle. And okay, so one more thing, the code that I updated, code that I have repository, actually what I did was I made some files edit in there. So let me pull this here for a second. So if I go up here and show you, this is the code that I downloaded from them. This is the POM file, and this is the web app file. And then the web app file actually has the index.jsp file. So I made some changes to that. So it's no more hello world, but I added some text in here. But if you download the original file, it should show you the hello world there. I thought I should just clear that out. Don't want to get you surprised. So we want to make sure that we global configuration tool, I move this here for a second, and we can, once this is how we build the pipeline. So once you get to new item, you go here and source code, and then you want to make sure you want to define Jenkins, where you're going to pull up your Git. So this is where you will get your source from. So if I copy my source from where I had, And then also I want to make sure that this is a public repo. I really don't need to log into my profile, but just for the sake of it, I'll actually show you how it's done. So this is where you would add your credentials for GitHub. So I actually don't remember what my password is, so give me 1 second here. All right, guys, so I am going to go back here, and then I'll just do this here. I will actually type in my user ID and then I have a password. And then you can say git, just giving them a name. And I would add the ID. So what happens is now this, every time I use this repository, it's going to log in and it will look for this repository. This is a public repository. You don't need to do this, but I'm just showing you how to do this. Once that is done, you scroll down. You're going to make sure that branches to build are actually in the master. You leave it like this. And then I would look at triggers. I would also scroll down and I would look for top level maven. Maven is basically a tool for Java compilation. So I would actually, let's do this here for a second. All right, so guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna park this here for a second. We will go back and configure Jenkins first with Java and everything. So let's leave it here. I'm sorry, it's confusing, but I wanted to come here and then global configuration tool. And then at this point, you need to make sure, so once you get, so first thing you need to come here. Before you create this job, I would actually go and actually let's do this again. So I will close this here. I will delete this project just for the sake of it. So once I install all the plugins, the next step is to click here and then go to global tool configuration. And this is the place where you need to define certain settings. So if you want to install so this is the place where you can automatically add JDK, or you can define where so I would say JDK. And then remember, we already have downloaded the JDK, so we're just going to copy this information that we had it before, and then I would give 1.18, 1.8, 1.80, 1.8.0. And this is you specify Jenkins that we already have a JDK file. You can just JRE file, take it from here, or you can actually, we already added the git here. But now for Maven, we'll just use Maven. We'll do an automatic installation of Maven. So if you select this, you need to specify where the Maven installation is, or you can just click here and automatically. So I'll give him name MVM 381. And then hit up save, and it will install. It will do the installation once we start doing the job. So go back now, creating a job. So we'll go to new hello world freestyle project. I will click OK, and go to source code, git again. We already have this here. And so for repository, I think I already had a copy of the repository, so I'm just going to copy it from there. And it's there. So this is in the folder. I already showed you the code. And then once that's done, master level, and then add a build step. We'll actually do a top level Maven target, maven this one. Then I would do clean install, and then pre-build step, I think we already did that. Post build, we want to install deploy to a container, deploy a var or EAR file. So this is where we're gonna basically make sure that, you know, it is in there. So for that, we'll just do static static dot var, and context path would be the root path. And then over here we have to define container. So we have a container which is Tomcat, I think. So this is the 9 that we downloaded. We already have, so remember we had a password created for Tomcat, so we have to do that again as well. So the password ID was test admin, and we kept the password as password, I believe. So tcat, and then description tcat1, and we'll add, and then we'll just use this one. And for Tomcat, we'll just specify the IP of that. So copy this one, go back here, oh, it might be HTTP, and that's it. We are almost done. And then there's, you can have email or save it. Once we save all the process, there's a job that got created. I would hit this job, hello world. I will hit build now, and if you scroll down at the bottom, once I hit build now, you can see it started to run the process. So if I click here and this job and then do a console output, it shows that an error message and X out that, you know, you must specify a valid lifecycle phase or goal to do plugin. Okay, so rerun maven. Okay, we'll go back here, and I will hit configure. Something got to do with maven installation, so we'll check it out here. Maven 381, I think we did just fine. Container, Tomcat, save, build now, and it failed again. Okay, let's check it out. What's going on? Console output. So it's asking me a lifecycle goal in the format. So I think I did a clean install format. So I'm not sure why is it showing a full stack trace, error, maven switch, rerun. Okay. Let's go back here. Configure. Source code. Let's do this again. Add one more time. I'll go back here and check one more thing here. And then I would go to, tells you, you know, once your configuration tool. JDK is installed, JDK, and Git is there too. I don't need to do Git as well, but I can always show Git as well. I think we don't need that. So 381 is selected Maven. I think we have done good. So we'll save it. Alright guys, so when I did the third build, it shows us as green, so I would go back here, console output, and it shows, and then install the file from the repo, scroll down here, and it shows success. So now if I go here and I refresh, the code that I downloaded from the repo should be uploaded here. So so the repo code is not uploaded. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back here for a second. I think we didn't do a post-build deployment location where it should go to. I think we already did that last time. So let's do this here. And so static dot static, I think it was a var and then context path is the root folder, deployed to Tomcat. And again, we need to make sure that the right IP. Copy this, paste, and then I would hit apply, save, build. I think we did not do that, so this should now deploy to the container. Success. So hit this. There you go. So yeah, I think what I did not specify the code to go to the container. Now you can see that I was able to successfully deploy a Java code to the Tomcat container, and you know, it's just working out just fine. So that will be it for the tutorial. Once again, to recap, we basically spin out a Azure VM Linux CentOS distro, and then we install Jenkins, exposed to moved Jenkins to 8080 and moved the port to 8081, installed the Tomcat, and then configured Jenkins and downloaded the code from Git repository, and you know, we were able to upload that code to Tomcat Web Services. All right, so that will be it for today. I